Good morning. Good morning, Astana. My name is Anna Piccinni. I'm a governance advisor at the Effective Institution Platform. Our platform has a co-secretariat, which is based half here in Paris at the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, from where I'm speaking right now, and the other half is in Singapore at the UNDP Global Center for Excellent Public Service. Our platform is composed of over 65 between low, middle, and high income countries, civil society organization and international organization. And our members are government practitioners who are concerned about improving government performance and accountability of their system. And we offer them a safe space to improve their performance with regard governance sector reform. And we always try to offer them with new methodology and way of exchanging the knowledge. So we thought about peer learning. Why? Let me quote Winston Churchill on this. I'm always ready to learn, and thought I do not always like being taught. So peer learning can be a great tool, but we find out that it's not so easy for it to be effective and to actually transfer knowledge. Actually, our members, they had a poor track record, maybe because the learning was about a predefined solution, often coming from North Country or too technical. And there was therefore a real demand for real South-South learning in the public sector. So we have been thinking about how learning can also allow tacit knowledge to be transferred. The political economy behind a reform, this kind of tips that only practitioners know and they can include into a peer-to-peer learning alliance. We therefore asked Chuex to do some research for us on what we knew about peer learning. So Matt Andrews from Harvard Kennedy School and Nick Manning, who is former World Bank, they've been researching, and they first produced a mapping which took stock of over 50 experiences around the world with peer learning, and they tried to understand what worked and what didn't work in those cases. Based on this mapping, they developed a guide, a peer-to-peer learning guide. And based on this tool, the EAP has been since then experimenting some informal learning experiences in 2014 and 2015. And now we will actually have the opportunity in 2016 to launch our first peer-to-peer learning alliance based on this toolkit. And this will take place in Latin America and will involve different stakeholders, Supreme Audit Institution, media, civil society, and the parliament, and they will reflect around how to improve accountability system. We're also thinking about launching a learning alliance between Somalia and Afghanistan on PFM reform and the user country system to compare their experiences. So let's see what is this model about and why should it be more innovative. So according to the guide, to the EAP peer-to-peer learning guide, there are 4 crucial steps that can allow practitioners to have effective sharing of knowledge. And those steps are peer group foundational engagement being established, achieve sustained contact between individuals over the time, and achieve the learning outcome. And the last step, which is the most challenging one, is for this learning to be applied to create change at scale in the national context. Let me go through briefly those steps and maybe think together through about how this can apply to your case. So step 1 is the peer group foundational engagement establishment. Let's imagine that today could be your foundational engagement workshop. Well, if that would be the case, what could you expect? You're going to learn today the histories about one-stop shop being established in Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Canada. And while you will be listening to those histories, learning histories, Maybe you can ask yourself whether there is a common driving problem, which is the bottom line to all these histories, and whether it's valid problem that we could further investigate together. Is there sufficient content for a learning alliance? Is there sufficient will for you as peers to jointly learn? But also, would you be the right peer in a potential learning alliance? Would it be enough to have the point of view of the institution who have been putting in place those one-stop shop? Or would you need other stakeholders to be involved in the learning alliance? For example, citizens who are supposed to be the users of those services. So these are all the kind of questions that one will ask himself during an engagement workshop for a learning alliance. Secondly, we will achieve sustained contact between individuals. How do you do that? Well, this is done by develop a structured engagement. You will have to think about what this engagement strategy could look like. So what type of interaction you can have, how many face-to-face interaction, how many distance interaction, online workshop, for example, or would it be more about like peer reviews and assessment? This strategy needs to be thought through in terms of reducing the administrative burden, reducing travel to make the engagement effective over time without being too highly in cost and in administration cost as well. And then what kind of style should be established for the activities in order to boost trust and commitment between the peers who are members of the Learning Alliance. So this stage is about sustaining contact between the individuals and make the learning happen. And the key here is about finding the best strategy, given distance, time difference, also different context, what will work better to transfer the knowledge. The third step is about the learning outcome that can be achieved. So the learning outcomes are very important and they should be set since the very beginning of the Learning Alliance. Participants need to be clear about what they want to learn, with which tools they think they're going to learn, what are the potential products, what are the milestones, and what is the timeline for knowledge to be transferred between the peer-to-peer community. What are potential outcomes of a learning exercise? Let me give you some example if you were to think about the case of a learning alliance on a one-stop shop concept and implementation. For example, you might want to share knowledge on the respective efforts to put in place those one-stop shop. Or you might want to measure what has been the impact of this one-stop shop in terms of access for the citizen to the services, strengthen transparency, and strengthen government answerability. Or you might want to experiment new practices, new service that you can offer through those one-stop shop, and you might want to carry this experiment over a year and monitor it through the Learning Alliance, and then share with your peers what have been your results in terms of reducing corruption, for example, or increasing public accountability. And then the fourth step, which is often the more challenging because learning happens between individuals, but then change needs to happen at scale. So how do you translate the knowledge that you have learned into producing effective change in your national context? So there might be difficulties at this stage in convincing your colleagues of the value of the peer learning, of the strategy that you have learned with your colleagues. And so you need to build coalition at national level, networks of actors who are convinced by the idea that you're trying to convey and will help you in implementing it. You should not presume that the theory of change that on which basis you've been formulating your learning alliance is necessary relevant for the specific context that you will be operating. So this is a very important point that you need to keep in mind from the very outset of the Learning Alliance. And then there is the risk of hitting the formal target, which is exchanging knowledge between the peers participants, but missing the political smart learning opportunity. This tacit knowledge that you've been exchanging should also help you in open doors at country level that will make the change actually happen. And I would like to leave you not with some next steps, but rather with some questions. And I would like for you to keep in mind those questions as you will listen this morning from the experiences of the practitioners from 4 countries. So my question to you will be, from today's presentation, could you identify common driving problems in implementing one-stop shops? And are those problems worth teaming up with the peers that you have in the room to further investigate those questions? And if that's the case, then which learning techniques you will be adopting? Will it be about site visits to see how does one-stop shop work in other countries? Will it be more about multi-peer assessment on this mechanism in each country, or just a reflection, or about producing knowledge products between the community of peers that you are? And I would like you also to think about what will be the theory of change. If there is a common driving problem that we want to learn about, what is the expected output? What is the expected impact of us learning about it? And how could we measure it? And then I would like you to also think about much more practical question. For example, can you or your institution commit to participate in a learning alliance that might develop over 1 year time? And what kind of information you might need to convince your institution of the value of this engagement? And finally, if you check on the boxes in the previous question and you think that there is interest in further investigating the common driving problems, then will you be willing to meet in similar circumstances to define now the learning outcomes that you expect to achieve through a learning alliance, and set down the calendar of the Learning Alliance? And if that will be the case, will 4 months be sufficient time to meet again? So I will leave you now with this question, and I hope you enjoy the presentation for the rest of the morning, and I'm looking forward joining the discussion which will happen at the end of the morning. Bye for now. Thank you very much.